Yes, good morning, people. We are going to continue with our discussion. Yes, today is going to be the first day of our technical sessions. So we're going to look at the first chapter. We are kind of, without even knowing, done with the first chapter also. Yes, there's some 2-3 small things pending in the first chapter, and we'll be going on to the most technical parts of it. Yes. Now, before I take you forward, I think I have already given you 2 homeworks. So I needed to understand those 2 homeworks. Homework number 1 was to understand who's your current president of India, Mr. Ah, so we have a new vice president which has come into picture. Yes, people, just because I tell you something does not mean it's always. You need to have the questioning mind to yourself. Yes, this was a small learning for you to figure out that just because Rahul starts objecting, don't start self-doubting yourself. Right? There was a election and the election selected a vice president of India, which means Murmura is still there, but now we have a deputy president coming up, Mr. Very good. Mr. C.P. Radhakrishnan has joined us as a Vice President of India. Yes. Now, obviously, the moment Murmura decides to retire, CP will take over, definitely. Yes. Or whenever Murmura is not available, busy with life and everything, C.P. Radhakrishnan will take over the responsibilities as a president. But yes, the president still remains the same as it is, which means even now, the president is going to be called the first citizen of India, and the deputy president, Mr. CP, is going to be called as the second person. It's going to be called the second person. Yes, that is what the first issue is. Clear? Yes, perfect. Situation number 2. When I gave you examples yesterday, I gave you 2 kind of sections. One section where we started with clause and the other we started with subsection. If I look at this carefully, people, if I have to write down the answer here, section 2, very good, clause 14, subclause 3, then item number B, sub item number 1. Yes, this is what is on the left side. Whereas if I look on the right side is section 12AB. Very good. It's subsection 1. Clause B. Subclause 2. Item number B and sub item number 2. That is what it is. Yes. Now the question is very simple. Between section 2 and between section 12AB, at which point of time did you agree on that fact that something should be starting with clause and something should be starting with subsection? What is the basis on this? Did anyone get an understanding? What?
You don't require a subsection and the clauses are independent. It's not related to a subsection.
When something is not related to something, it is going to start with a clause. Very good. Anyone else? Same thoughts? Same thoughts? Very good. That is how you read an act, people. If you understand this carefully itself, when I say the word section and subsection itself means it is going to be part of the section, which means everything is going to be related to each other. Yes, but when I start looking at something which is not related to each other, activities are going to work independently of each other. We start with the word clause because there is no dependency created here. Yes, for a simple example, if I look at section 2 talks about definitions. Now, when I look at section 2.1 and look at section 2.2, is it so required that I cannot read 2.2 without reading 2.1? No. 2.1 is working independently and 2.2 is working independently. I can look at both separately based on my choice, which means I don't need a subsection in the picture. I can directly start with a clause. Whereas if I go to section 12AB, for those who know what is 12AB, very good. This is a registration guidelines for charitable trust. Yes, a registration guidelines for charitable trust has been defined under 12AP, which means I am now giving you guidelines on how to register yourself. Now, obviously, when I'm giving you guidelines on how to register yourself, 1 and 2 are going to be talked in unison. I cannot look at 2 without looking at 1, which means activities are linked to each other, and therefore I start with subsections. Are we clear? Yes. Theoretically, people, normally every section will always have a subsection. There are very handful of sections where you start with clauses. Examples are section 2. Very good. Anything else? Very good. We have section 10, which talks about exemptions, Now, when I talk about exemptions, people, 10.1 is going to talk about agriculture and 10.2 is going to talk about HUF transfers. Are they both linked to each other? Can I not read HUF without reading agriculture? I can, which means it is going to be clauses directly. Yes. Anything else that you can think of? Anything else that you can think of? No. We have something called as section 47. Any clue? Section 47 is a topic under capital gains, which talks about items which are not regarded as transfer, which means these items are again going to be exempt. Yes. When I'm talking about exempt items, again, are they going to be linked to each other? No, they're not going to be linked to each other, which means again, I'm talking about clauses. I'm not talking about subsections. Are we making sense? Perfect. This is what the understanding is. Any doubts on this? No? Now, why am I spending so much time on this, people? It sometimes happens that when you read a section, they end up linking to another section. Yes, and that's where the whole confusion starts. For a simple example, when you read section 45, any clue? It's a charging section of capital gains. Section 45 talks about the capital gains charging section, which comes and says any transfer of a capital asset will be regarded as capital gains. Where they come and say capital asset is defined under clause 14 of section 2. Under clause 14 of section 2. Now here is where the problem starts. If the act would have simply said 214, you might have not had an issue. You could have just directly gone to 2 and looked for 14. But now they're using English on this. They're trying to tell you it is clause 14 of 2, and you should not be ending up confused saying you're going to 2, trying to find 14 and then somewhere inside it. Yes or no? That is not how it's going to operate. You need to be looking at 214 directly. Yes, the one downside of an act is, people, the act does not read it as simple as I read it. Yes, now if I had to write it down, I could have referred it simply like this itself. No, I could have said 214 3B1. It would have been easy for you and me to read. But income tax does not read it this way, unfortunately. If income tax has to write this down, income tax will write it as sub item number 1 of item number B of subclause 3 relevant to clause 14 in section 2 of the Income Tax Act. Yes, they write it from the back and they drag it so much that it becomes so confusing for you to figure out. Yes, which is why, people, it's important that you understand when do you start with clauses and when do you start with subsections. Does that make sense to everyone? Yes, perfect. With this, we have done what is called as a drafting of an act. Drafting of an act looks on these parameters. Are we making sense? Yes. Quick revision what we discussed yesterday, people. What and all do we need to have an act for? We need to have section, subsection, clause, subclause, item, subitem. Items other than that are provisos, explanations, non-obstante clauses. Very good. Non-obstante clauses and subject to clauses. Subject to clauses. Yeah. Perfect. I've prepared notes for you, people. If you can note down this thing very, very quickly for your understanding of. Yes, I'm going to dictate it parallel side also. See if your speed is matching mine. Yes, your heading can read as formation of an act. Your heading can read as formation of an act. Formation of an act. Under that, every provision is, people forget the screen, listen to my voice. Formation of an act. Under that, every provision is designed using the following formats. Every provision is designed using the following formats. We start with section. Very good. We start with section. People, sections are always defined as letters or numbers? Letters or numbers? Numbers, hyphen, expressed in number terms. Section, hyphen, expressed in number terms. Expressed in number terms. Under that, next, subsection. Under that, subsection. People, subsection, if you notice, always has same numbers. Yes, we start with 214, we start with 21, 22. It's just that number sometimes becomes clauses, it sometimes becomes subsection, which means this is also expressed in number terms. Yes, subsection hyphen only used when, subsection hyphen only used when the provisions are, subsection hyphen only used when the provisions are linked or not linked. Linked or not linked? Provisions are linked to each other. When the provisions are linked to each other. Normally expressed in numbers. When the provisions are linked to each other. Normally expressed in number templates. Yes, after subsection, people, we have clauses. After subsection we have clauses. People, clauses can be in two ways. If section is linked to each other, then we will get clause after subsection. But if they are not linked to each other, we directly start from clauses. We directly start from clauses. Yes or no? Yes. So clauses hyphen used after section directly. Used after section directly. If what? If what is not linked? The provisions are not linked to each other. If the provisions are not linked to each other. Provisions are not linked to each other. Now I want you to think this carefully, people. Imagine if I'm doing section 2. The next thing which comes up is a number, but we start calling it as a clause. But whereas when I looked at section 12AB, the one was looking like subsection and the clause was looking like a letter, which means clause are fluid enough. They can either be a number or a letter. There is only one thing to be kept in mind, people. The letter which is going to be here is not going to be in uppercase. They're going to be in lower cases. They're going to be in lower cases. There is a weird way of how income tax is drafted as thing, people. It always starts with number. Then it goes to lowercase letters. It goes to lowercase letters. Then it goes to lowercase Roman numerals. Then it ends up going to uppercase letters and then ends up going to uppercase Roman numerals. It's not very critical, but I'm just putting it out to you. Yes. So which means you will always see the uppercase Roman numerals as the sub item. The last thing which is going to be happening is always going to be in uppercase Roman numerals. That is how the drafting format is. Yes. Which means it comes to clause. I can either have it as number also or a letter, but it will be in lower cases. Yes. So expressed in numbers or lower cases. Expressed in numbers or in lower cases. Expressed in numbers or in lower cases. After clause we have subclauses. Subclauses hyphen expressed in we're going to play around, people. We started with letters. Next thing will be Roman numerals. Yes, so this is going to be expressed in lowercase Roman numerals. Lowercase Roman numerals. Lowercase Roman numerals. Next item is items. Next item is items. Now items is going to be a little fluid, people. We have done letters. We have moved to Roman numerals. Next thing again is going to be letters. We're going to switch around. Yes. So we're again going to be letters. So expressed in letters. Expressed in letters. Final item is sub item. Very good. Final item is called sub item. Sub item is always expressed in, people, we did letter, Roman numerals. We meant to letters. This one is going to be Roman numerals, but we've already used the lowercase Roman numerals. This one is very good. Expressed in uppercase Roman numerals. Expressed in uppercase Roman numerals. Yes, so we're done with the drafting of the provision, people. After which the same section will have something called provisos. We'll have something called proviso. So next heading is called proviso. The next heading is called proviso. People, what did we learn? What is proviso? Proviso is going to be an exception to the subsection. Very good. Yes, you're going to have an exception to the subsection. Although, let me also clarify, it's not always required to be a part of subsection alone. Sometimes what may happen, you may have a subsection which may have an explanation, and the explanation may have an exception. So proviso works on fluid terms. It can work on anything as long as there is a law, and if I want to create an exception to the law, I will call it proviso. Yes, so proviso is an exception to the provisions given. Exception to the provisions given. People, which will have superiority, the main law or this one? Am I going to have priority on the main law or am I going to have a priority on the proviso? Which one is superior? Which one is superior? Which one is superior? Simple example like I gave you. If I told you a fruit means anything which has a seed, provided that tomato is not a fruit, which one is superior? Main one. Can I say main one says anything with seed is a fruit, or can I say no, tomato is excluded? Which means which one is superior? Proviso becomes superior. You cannot have the main law becoming superior than proviso. Proviso is holding bigger grounds. Yes. So full stop, continue. Overrides the given provisions. Overrides the given provisions. Overrides the given provisions. How do you look at an act and know that this is a proviso? Starts with provided that, provided further, provided also. Full stop, continue. Starts with within quotes. First proviso is called provided that. Starts with provided that. Next proviso is called provided further. Starts with provided that, comma, provided further, comma, provided also, comma, provided also. Yes. Now this is also one other confusing area, people. Sometimes what happens is when you're in a section and the section wants to refer a proviso in another section, they will start using the word referred to in second proviso of section 23C. Now when they've used the word second proviso, you should be careful that it will start with provided further. Yes. Why I'm telling you this, people? Section 1023C is one of the worst sections. 1023C has just one line of a law and then it has about 20 different provisos. So 1023C is, and then after that there are 20 different provisos. So the problem what happens is when you go to section 12, which is also something similar, it will start coming and saying as referred in 20th proviso of your section 1023C. Now the problem is there is no numbers anywhere, which means you have to go to 1023C and count the provided, how many times it is coming. Yes, for you to reach the 20th place. 99.9% when Rahul has done it, he's always made a mistake. Yes, even if I try to find the 20th, I will either end up at the 19th or I'll end up at the 21st. I will never end up at 28th. Pata nahi kyun. Yes, and then what I'll have to do is I'll have to figure out, okay, that law was telling something. What is a related provision in this? Obviously 19 is not making sense, 21 is also not making sense, maybe 20th is making sense. Yes, it was a huge mess up in 1023C, which is why last year they made a decision and they said, you know what, get away with 1023C, we don't even want it anymore. The logic remains the same in section 12, so you might as well refer 12 itself. They deleted off 1023C and they said we'll go to section 12 and put it in number templates. So at least now it is easy to read in number formats. Yes, all those things we'll discuss when we do charitable organization. Clear? Yes, so it is provided that, provided further, provided. Very good. If you're done with proviso, next item is go forward. Heading is called explanation. Heading is called explanation. What do you mean by explanation, people? What am I using explanation for? Am I trying to explain the whole provision or something as a part of the provision? Something as a part of the provision. The whole line may have a word which I don't know what the answer is. I would like to explain that properly. That is called explanation, which means explanation in simple words are giving you definitions or clarifications. They're giving you definitions or clarifications. Correct? Yes. Explanation hyphen gives definition slash clarification. Gives definition slash clarification of a specific word in a provision. Gives definition slash clarification of a specific word in a provision. Now this happens very rarely, people, but it happens once in a while. Yes, you're trying to give a definition only. Now this is income tax way of giving a definition. Correct, not correct? Yes. Now if you think about this carefully, income tax is trying to make a definition, which means is it always possible that the definition will be what you and I think, or can they expand the scope? They can definitely expand the scope. Sometimes what happens, people, is that they start using explanation as a deeming fiction. What fiction? Deeming fiction. What do you mean by deeming fiction? Something which is not there but assumed to be now. assumed to be. Now, for a simple example, people, somewhere in salary chapter, they'll come and say a family, if you take medical expenditure, it is fully exempt. Yes, but you don't know what is a family. So which means income tax will now come and say family means so and so and deems to also include this item. The moment they use the word deems, it means it is not a family, but now I'm assuming them to be part of family, which means explanation also has the powers to widen the scope of, but only to the extent of the word. They cannot expand the scope of the provision itself. They cannot expand the provision scope itself. They can only expand the word in the scope. That is what an explanation does for you. Yes, full stop, continue. What have we written? Gives definition or clarification of a specific word in a provision. Full stop, continue. Also is used for expanding the scope of a given word. Also used for expanding the scope of a given word by deeming fiction. By deeming fiction. For those who are reading this word for the first time, deeming fiction means assuming. Deeming fiction means assuming. Yes, yes. Now I'm giving you these big jargons also, people, because let me be very clear. Yes, there is this one very big what do you call it? Assumption. There is one very big assumption in the CA final level, people. Students always come and say, Rahul, we should stick to ICI study material, because ICI study material gives you the legal language. Yes, and if you're writing exam, you need to have the legal source. You cannot use the simple English for your exam, otherwise you'll get no marks. Yes, one thing which I always tell people, for me to make sure that you know legal language, I don't need to teach you things in legal language. It's all about using the words. Yes or no? Yes. So what I've done is, my book has been designed in the simplest of English so that it is easy to understand. By the time you go for your exam, you should already know how to complicate the English off from your side. Yes, very simple. Sometimes in my exam, in my book, if I would have told it is assumed as so and so, when you go and write an exam, the same provision, you will not use the word assumed, you will use the word, very simple, you'll use the word deemed. So you'll simply start coming and saying it is deemed to be an income, full stop, khatam. Yes, which means I don't need to teach you things in English template. You can make English on your own. Yes, similarly, people, in a lot of places, I would have suddenly come and used this word. I would have tried using less than or equal to. Yes, now you can either in English exam go and write less than or equal to, or you can come and say not exceeding. You can use the word not exceeding. Baat wahi hai. Yes or no? But not exceeding is what the income tax way of using it. Yes. So what I'll be doing, people, as we go forward is, when we get my notebooks, not right now, when we get our notebooks, what we'll do is I'll make a specific page for you. In that specific page, we'll start using jargon English. Yes. So I'll give you the simpler English, I'll give you the technical English, so that when we go to PGBP chapter, and when I give you the technical part of the logic, what you'll do is you will start reading it in bigger English. Yes, so that you automatically devise yourself in such a way that when you write the provision, you know what kind of English to be used of. Yes, this is my simple way of helping you, not just for DT, also for other subjects. Yes, you have the same stupidity coming in companies audit for your auditing chapter, and you have IDT also as a part of it. Yes, so if you've already created a page which can tell you the simple English and the complicated English, you design yourself in such a way that every time you read something, you read it in complicated English. You write that way in exam. The examiner does not know that the law is having the same English. All he sees is that you have used big words. The moment he sees you have used big words, he will already get convinced. Yes, so you're trying to convince a fool, you're trying to do that to your best extent possible. Yes, so we're going to do that also as we proceed forward, people. Right now, deeming fiction means assume. Very good. Move forward. After explanations, people, what have we learned? We have learned non-obstante clauses. We have learned non-obstante clauses. What is a non-obstante clauses, my friends? People, if you think about this very loudly, non-obstante clauses is like an exception. But this time we're not trying to create an exception for a provision. We're trying to create an exception for a section itself. Yes or no? Yes. But it so happens, people, that when you talk about non-obstante clauses, you don't just talk about an exception of a section. Sometimes you may end up talking about an exception for a whole chapter. You may also talk about creating an exception for the whole act itself. For the whole act itself. A very simple example if I have to give you. Yes. When we talk about penalty chapters, every single section of penalty will come and tell you this is what it is. Yes or no? Yes. But sometimes if you think about it, should you be levied penalty for every case? No. If you are found to be a genuine person, I should not levy penalty on you. Correct? Not correct. Which means income tax introduced something called as section 273. Section 273 basically comes and says that if a person is found genuine, he should not be levied a penalty. Should not be levied a penalty. Now, if you think about this loud, penalty starts from section 270 and goes to 272. Whereas now you have 273 which says don't levy penalty if you are a genuine person. Which means which one is talking superiority now? 273 is talking superiority. Now 273 is also part of the penalty chapter, and every other section is also part of the penalty chapter. So when I start with 273, I will say notwithstanding anything contained in chapter so and so. The moment I say notwithstanding anything contained in chapter so and so, I am trying to tell that this full chapter ka superior section is 273. Agreed? Not agreed? Yes or no? At the same way, people, when you go to PGBP chapter, you might have learnt a section called a section 40. Any idea? Very good. Talks about disallowances. 40A talks about TDS. 48(2) talks about income tax payments and all. Now, if you think about it, between 30 to 38, you would have already learnt allowances. Which means in section 37, the garbage section called residuary expenses, everything technically gets allowed. But now 40 comes and says don't allow. Which means now 40 is taking priority over 30 to 38. Agreed? Not agreed? Now, when 40 is taking priority over only 30 to 38, can they talk about everything of the PGBP? No. In which case they will start with saying notwithstanding anything contained in sections 30 to 38. Now I have referred specific sections. Correct? Last example is two sections which I am assuming you already know about. One is called section 90. Talk about, that's 92. Very good. 90 talks about DTAAs. Yes, double taxation avoidance treaties. Now, for those who remember this from a practical orientation, people, they would have come and told you when there is a rate in an act and there is a rate in treaty, you will take whichever is beneficial to the assessee. You will take whichever is beneficial to the assessee. Which means this section 90 will now come and tell that, boss, if I give you a rate and if it is lower, you should choose me over the whole act. Over the whole act. Which means section 90 will start with saying notwithstanding anything contained in the whole act, this section will now come and say that if you have a rate which is beneficial, you can opt for this section of. Similarly, we have another section called 115JB. Talks about, very good, talks about MAT computations, where 115JB comes and says, ignoring everything happening in this whole act, I will give you how to compute book profits. I will tell you what to compute tax on this. Which means 115JB is now holding superior priorities. Agreed? Not agreed? Yes. Which means 115JB will also now come and say notwithstanding anything contained contrary in this act. Correct? Yes. Now I have a weird question. Never implementable, but never a weird question. People, 115JB also says notwithstanding anything contained in act. Section 90 also says notwithstanding contained anything in the act. Which means question now comes, this one is superior. Is section 90 superior or 115JB superior? Who told you they're unrelated? If you tell me they're unrelated, my question is very simple. If you are a foreign person, will you apply MAT, not apply MAT? People, if you tell me section 90 is superior, then someone would come and say, I will not pay tax as per MAT because I want to pay tax as per normal. But if you take 115JB is superior, you will say, boss, even though treaty is there, you still have to compute tax as per MAT computations. You get my question? Tell me which one is superior. When both are contradicting each other, what is the right answer? Sorry? Meaning? Harmonious construction. Oh, interpretation of statutes. Kya pada usme? People, when both are contradictory to each other, Act says follow the sequence of numbers. Follow the sequence of numbers, which means 115JB takes superiority. 115JB takes superiority in terms of numbers. Which one is coming later? 115JB comes in later, which means 115JB will take superiority over it, which is why even for a foreign company, despite the fact that you may have a treaty rules coming into picture, you still have to compute MAT also. You still have to compute MAT also, which means now you will compute tax as per normal, compute tax as per MAT, also compute tax as per DTAA, and check which one is making more sense. Which means even if a person has a treaty, I can still force him to pay tax under MAT computations. Perfectly legal, perfectly possible. Does that make sense? Yes. So this is how you have to read an act, people. Now, this is a very, very beautiful example which comes in from chapter 6A. I'm not sure how many of you have read it, people. There is a chapter 6A called section 80G. Talks about donations. We also have 80GG, which talks about, that is GGB. Very good. It's called rent paid, in case you're not getting HRA. Now, the problem in this both sections, people, is 80G comes and says for part number 4, 50% deduction, it says you can only claim maximum of 10% of your total income. 80GG also comes and says you can only claim 25% of your total income. Yes. Now, the problem is, people, when you use the word total income means everything. Total income means everything, which means when you do 80G, you need to claim GG as deduction. And when you do GG, you need to claim G as a deduction. Now, how do you do that? Can you take X and Y? Let's do simultaneous equation. Is that technically possible? No. In which case, people, the interpretation is, because G comes first, we will apply G, ignoring G and GG. And then when GG comes, we will take G into consideration and apply GG. Yes or no? Yes. Now, all these obviously not relevant at CA final level, but it's all about how to read it properly. Yes. So you need to understand how to read things carefully. Are we making sense on this part? Good to go. Perfect. Proviso. Sorry, non-obstante clauses. Non-obstante clauses hyphen provides an exception. Provides an exception to a given what? To a given section, comma, to a given section, comma, chapter, comma, whole act. To a given section, comma, chapter, comma, whole act, full stop, continue. It starts with. Now, people, here is where a line of difference is going to come. When I talk about Income Tax Act 1961, it will start with notwithstanding anything contrary contained in so and so. But when I talk about Income Tax 2025, I will start with irrespective of anything contained contrary. Yes. So what you're going to do is page break into two. Left side will say IT 1961, right will say IT 2025. Yes. So left side will say IT 1961, right side will say IT 2025. Left side you will say notwithstanding anything contrary contained in ... Notwithstanding anything contrary contained in ... Right side will say irrespective of anything contrary contained in ... Irrespective of anything contrary contained in ... Understood? Yes. Perfect. Next is called subject to clause. Next is called subject to clause. Any guesses? What's a subject to clause? It's an exact opposite of non-obstante, which means I cannot do this section unless the previous is satisfied. Have you seen subject to in your act, people, anywhere? Any guesses? It happens in section 37. PGBP, which says subject to the provisions of section 30 to 36. Subject to the provisions of section 30 to 36. Now, if you read section 37, section 37 simply says all expenses are allowed as deduction. Yes, but then 30 to 36 have given restrictions. Because 30 to 36 may come and say, yes, if you have not made payment before the due date, you will not claim the expense and so on and so forth. Which means 37 should only be converted after 30 to 37 allows it. Yes or no? So if 30 to 36 is already disallowing it, can I claim it in 37? No. Which means 37 is having superior priorities or inferior priorities? Inferior priorities. That is how subject to conditions work with. Are we making sense? Perfect. Subject to clause hyphen. Conditional to happening of a conditional to happening of an other section. Conditional to happening of an other section. Conditional to happening of an other section. People, if it is conditional to happening of another section, it will start with the words subject to the provisions of. It starts with subject to the provisions of. It starts with subject to the provisions of. Yes, yes, beautiful. This is how every section looks like in a specific act. Yes, apart from that, people, to make an act, what and all do you bare minimum need? To make the act itself, what and all do you bare minimum need? Sorry? To make an act, not a law. What do you need to make an act? First, it should be approved by very good, it's not parliament, it is constitution. First, an act has to be approved by a constitution. Constitution will delegate the powers to parliament. Parliament will make the act. So just to give you an hindsight, people, when it comes to income tax act, the first question I will ask is income tax approved in the constitution? Answer is yes. We have an article called as article number 265. We have an article called as article number 265. 265 comes and says that any taxes to be levied in India can only be done by a authority of law. Yes, which means the example which I gave of Rowdy Rathor people, the persons who are collecting taxes, can they collect taxes? No, they are not legally allowed to collect taxes. They can only do it if they are an authority of law. Authority of law does not mean that I am in village ka gunda. Authority of law means I am approved by the parliament. I am approved by the parliament, and in India to collect income tax there is only one person approved by the parliament, which is very good, which is CBDT. Yes, so article number 265 has given the powers to Constitution of India to levy taxes as part of India. With the article number 265 comes in article number 246, which gives the powers to the parliament to make the law. And as a part of that, we have entry number 82 coming in list schedule 1, which gives the powers of income tax to be made of. Yes, all these is part of book, people, so I'm just showing off, nothing else. Clear? Yes, so basically you have 265 making up 246, making up schedule 1, making up union list, making up entry number 82, which is going to be part of your income tax act. So the first step to make an act is for you to get a authority powers. Yes, now why is this relevant, people? Because when GST came into picture, unfortunately the whole constitution did not have any powers. They had no powers to make up GST in India, and therefore to make GST itself we need to first introduce changes in constitution. So first constitution was amended, then only GST came into picture. Without that, GST was not even allowed in India. So had they not made the change in constitution, GST would have been void ab initio. It would have straightforward become void ab initio, and therefore those kind of changes took place. Yes, so every time you create an act, the first question you can easily go and ask is it approved by the constitution? Are we clear? Yes, from there comes in an act, and to create an act you need certain things. Section number 1, which talks about title, extent and commencement. Section number 2, which talks about definitions, and then charging section, which gives the scope of the act, bare minimum things which you need to have. Yes, now luckily, people, for income tax act you people are a little more special. Yes, in this income tax act you don't just have one charging section, you have so many charging sections. Every single chapter has its own charging section. Yes, for salaries you have section 15, you have section 15. For HP you have section 22. Very good. For PGBP you have section 28. For capital gains it is section 45, and for IFOS it is section 56. For IFOS, it is section 56. People, this is the last batch which I can show off because next year I have to mug up the whole new act. Yes, मेरे को भी याद नहीं है. I have not even touched the new act, so even I don't know what is the section numbers in that. Very weird, people. Yes, I didn't need that, but nevertheless, अब पूरा वापस से पढ़ना पड़ेगा. At least for you people, it's not a big pain. For me, it's a big pain. I have to, after 10 years, relearn everything. Yeah, so that's a big challenge of. But nevertheless, the point is, people, every chapter in income tax has its own charging sections, and it is not just for the computational provisions. We also have it for every other topic. Transfer pricing has its own charging section called 92. Chapter 6A has its own charging section called 80. Every single chapter has its own charging sections to that extent. Yes, so charging section is very, very critical for you to take into consideration. Now, when I talk about charging section, there can be one charging section for the whole act, or there can be one charging section for a whole chapter also. For a whole chapter also. Are we clear? Yes, very good. Next heading is called charging section. Next heading is called charging section. People, किसी पास pages कम है तो मेरे को बताना, मेरे पास है. Next heading is called charging section hyphen. What does charging section do? Provide the scope of the provides the scope of the particular act / chapter. Provides the scope of the particular act / chapter. People, if this chapter comes and says you can only tax what is salaries, can you start taxing HP incomes in this? Which means anything which you put in this, if it is going beyond the scope of the charging section, it automatically becomes void is for a contract. It automatically becomes ultra vires. It automatically becomes ultra vires. Yes or no? Yes, big English, people, nothing else. Yes. So the next big English which you're going to note down later on is called full stop continue. Full stop continue. Anything beyond the scope of this charging section. Anything beyond the scope of this charging section will be anything beyond the scope of this charging section will be ultra vires. Will be ultra vires. Clear? Yes. That brings me to the last one. Heading is called definitions. Heading is called definitions. Now, people, just for my understanding, where and all have you seen definitions? Section? Very good. Next. Very good. People, definitions always start with the first important place, which is your explanations. Explanation gives the first definitions for you. If something is not there in explanation is when you start referring section 2. Yes or no? Yes. So definitions have a certain amount of placement. If you understand this carefully, I don't know, how many of you know what is the meaning of profession? Any guesses? Are you a professional? Not yet. Okay. Am I a professional? People, if I am a CA providing teaching service, tell me, am I a professional? I am a profession, CA providing teaching service. Am I a professional? Okay, forget. Am I a profession? Yes. Am I providing professional service? No? No. People, I am a CA. One of the days I was going to the beach. There was someone choking. So therefore I helped him with on the back side. I was pushing him out and he moved off things. Yes. So technically he was very happy with me and he was like, because of you, I survived. Because of you, I survived. Here is 1 lakh rupees as a token of my appreciation. Yes. Which means if you think about this, Rahul has now received doctor fee. In all practical sense, Rahul has received a doctor fee. Rahul as a CA goes to a beach, receives 1 lakh rupees as doctor fees. Tell me, professional service. Is it a professional service? Why? I'm a CA and providing doctor services. Profession, professional activity. Am I a professional? Or let me put it this way. Is this 1 lakh rupee a professional service? Why? I can go to beach daily also. CPR करने को मिले तो क्या दिक्कत है? One of the days I'm waiting for a CPR only, nothing else. People, here is where comes in section 44AA. Here is where comes in section 44AA. Section 44AA talks about maintenance of books of accounts, and it has clarified something called what is a professional service. Yes, now section 44AA provides a professional service. To clarify, professional service means a profession providing service during the course of his profession. What? A professional service, sorry, a profession providing professional service during the course of his profession, which means I should be a professional providing a professional service, but it also should be part of my course, which means doing a doctor service as a CA is not part of my professional course and therefore will not be treated as a professional service. Now, if you think about this carefully, I have put this definition where? I have put this definition in 44AA, which means this definition will only apply to 44AA. This definition will only apply to 44AA. Can I use the same definition for another section? Can I use the same definition for another section? For example, imagine if I'm going to transfer pricing. And in transfer pricing, I'm saying if you're providing a professional service to a third party AE, sorry, not a third party, maybe an AE, you're providing a professional service to an AE, you need to charge 18% markup, for example. Now, what is TP? I will explain later on. Yes, point is if I'm providing professional service to an AE, I should charge 18%. My question is very simple. Now, if Rahul goes and provides doctor services, will it be a professional service? Will it be a professional service? Will it be a professional service? Yes, it would be a professional service because the definition of professional service was only limited to 44AA. Has it any bearing on 92? No, it has no bearing on 92, which means in 92 I can still declare it as a professional service. Unless 92 comes and says professional service here would refer back to 44AA. If it refers back to 44AA, then I don't have a choice. But if it does not refer, I would assume professional service to mean anything. It would mean anything. Yes. Now, why am I spending time on this, people? Very simple. Understand, like I told you, if Rahul is a CA and is providing teaching service, am I a professional? No. Because section 44AA does not recognize teaching as a profession. It does not recognize teaching as a profession. On the contrary, for those people who have read treaties, if you have read treaties, income tax treaties, India US treaty, India Netherlands treaty and all, you'll see in article 12. Article 12 talks about royalty and FTS. FTS, fees for technical services and professional services. In that fees for technical and professional services, if you notice, teaching is part of profession. They include it as a part of profession, which means there teaching is a profession, whereas in India 44AA it is not a profession, which means if you notice, section 44AA says teaching is not a profession, but section 90 says teaching is a profession. Yes, the understanding is very simple. When you did a definition in 44AA, it only applied to 44AA. It cannot go beyond the scope. Yes, that is why I am asking a question, people. Why do you have section 2? You could have might as well put all definitions in the respective sections itself. Now, what was the whole point of putting section 2? People, when I want to define something which is not just applicable to one section, I would like to define it for every section. That is when something fits part of section number 2. That is when something fits part of section number 2, which means now when I wanted to define profession and I wanted to keep the same definition of profession for my 90 also, for my 44AA also, I would have not put it in 44AA. I would have rather put it in section number 2. Are we making sense? Yes. A very beautiful example would be the word assessee. Now, when you talk about assessee, in the whole income tax, assessee means the same, which means will I go and define it in every single section? I would rather put it in section number 2. Agreed, not agreed? Yes. So the placement of definition is extremely critical. Putting a definition in a section means it applies only to that section. Putting a definition under section 2 means it applies to the whole act. Very good. It applies to the whole act. Now, my question is very simple. Imagine I'm in Companies Act and somewhere in Companies Act by mistakenly they've referred the word assessee. They've referred the word assessee but forgot to define the word assessee in Companies Act. Nowhere it is there. Can I refer on income tax? Can I refer on income tax? Can Companies Act go back and refer income tax? No, we cannot do it because it is not defined in Companies Act. It is defined in income tax. Section 2 of income tax defines assessee only for income tax purposes. It does not define it for Companies Act purposes, which means Companies Act can only refer income tax, cannot rely on income tax act. Are we clear? Yes, which is when the whole question comes, people. Imagine there is a word given in income tax. I tried to find the definition in the section, it is not there. I tried to find a definition in section 2, it is not there. Where do I go and check? Very good. We then introduced in India a specific act called as General Clauses Act. General Clauses Act comes up with the understanding to come and say, if something has been missed to be defined in any act, you can refer back to me. You can refer back to me. And I'm not sure if you've learned it as a part of your inter people, but General Clauses Act has some very, very beautiful things. For example, for those who know, Income Tax Act 1961 and all those acts were created by a masculine behavior, which means the whole act uses the word he everywhere. The whole act uses the word he everywhere. And therefore, in the start of the years, people, there was a huge confusion whether I can penalize a woman or I cannot penalize a woman, which means were women free enough to do anything in India and not be penalized for it. Yes, later on is when General Clauses Act was introduced and they amended the definition to say in any of the acts of India, wherever the word he is used, it is deemed to have she inside it. It is deemed to have she inside it, which means now, even though income tax may say the word he, you are responsible to read General Clauses Act, which will say the word she, which means women are equally liable. Women are equally liable. Yes. Now, why is this important, people? When you get a new act, the first question you should always ask yourself is, when you read a word and you try to find a loophole, you say, Rahul, this is not given, so maybe I can use it. Yes, you are right. But it's always important that you go back and refer General Clauses Act, but because you may never know that if you're trying to find a loophole here, someone else has already covered it up there. Yes, and you may end up in a illegal model where you end up doing wrong thing in a wrong way. Yes, you don't want to do that. You only want to do wrong thing in a right way. Yes, you have already become a CA, right? Clear with me? Yes. Now, people, hypothetically imagine General Clauses also forgot to define it. Where do you go? I have now found a definition which is unfortunately not there anywhere. Now what to do? Oxford. Yes, people, if something is not defined in General Clauses Act, we then end up using some law dictionaries. Yes, there are some dictionaries called Black-Scholes Law, something like that. Yes, it's called Black-Scholes Law Dictionary. It's a professionally made law dictionary where you can start looking for words which are not just given in India standards, it's given in international standards. Yes, so it's a dictionary which is common throughout the world. You can start looking for definitions there. Very, very hypothetically, imagine it is not there in the dictionary also. Spelling mistake. Yes, people, now you may think this way. I'll give you a very beautiful example. Imagine a very simple example. Rahul is working in an office. Now, Rahul is the head of tax, which means people report to me. Yes, it so happened, people, that income tax department Monday sent me a notice. Due date was mentioned as let's say 5th October. Yes, I went ahead and I gave it off to my junior and I told him this is what the notice is. Why don't you draft the response, submit it off? Draft the response, submit it off. I made it very clear, draft the response and submit it off. I gave it off to him. Yes, I kept on waiting, nothing happened. Suddenly what happened is on 4th October, I received a PDF and the PDF had nothing. It just said, hi Rahul, FYR. FYR. Traditionally, as a manager, what did I do? Ignored it off. As a manager, I ignored it off. I did not do anything about it. Yes, I left it off. There is a mail which says FIR. What am I supposed to understand? I left it off. I did not do anything about it. Yes, 5th October passed. 6th October, I get a notice from department says you have not complied to the notice. You have to levy a penalty of 10,000 rupees. 272A. Yes, now I am very furious. So I go back to my junior and I'm like, what the hell happened? Why have I received a notice? He's like, yes, sir, you received a notice because you did not respond. I'm like, whose responsibility was it to respond? He says, sir, it is my responsibility, but unfortunately, you did not support. Like, what did I not support on? He said, sir, if you remember, on 4th October, I sent you a mail where I gave you a PDF. The PDF said FIR for your review. For your review, which means I was waiting for your confirmation if the letter looks good for me to file. You did not reply, and therefore I was not bound to file it. If tomorrow there was a mistake, you would have penalized me. So I did not want to file it without your confirmation. So I did not proceed forward. Me as a manager, I went and said, boss, in my understanding, FIR means for your reference. Which means my assumption was you already filed it. You're only informing me that you have done the filing. Yes. Now this is what the issue is going on. Now I have to go and approach my CFO because we have to pay a penalty. Yes. So I go and approach my CFO and I come and say, sir, my junior made a mistake. He did not respond on this properly. My junior goes to CFO. He comes and says, no, sir, Rahul did not respond properly. So there is an issue now. Yes. Now my CFO is going to act as a judge. Obviously, people, when you use the word FIR, what will he do? He'll start looking for places. He started looking at the section, not there. He looked at section 2, not there. He looked at General Clauses Act, not there. Dictionaries have still not been updated with Gen Z language. So, kya kare? Practical, genuine issue. Tell me, is Rahul right? Is the junior right? सोच रहे थे ना, नहीं होगा. हाँ, हो गया. बोलो. दोनों गलत है. कैसे दोनों गलत है? क्या बोल दिया ना, मेल डाल दिया ना वो. So we have to now go back to Gen Z people and say, don't use jargons anymore. मानोगे तुम लोग? हाँ? Very good. People, here comes the last understanding where courts have now held saying that when nothing is defined anywhere and there is no way to conclude on an answer, we start looking at customary practices, which means I will go back to the market and I will ask people on a poll, tell me what do you understand by FIR, which means my boss will then go back to various people and come and say, if I tell you FIR, what do you see? If the person says for your review, I am gone. But if they say for your reference, he is gone. Yes or no? Yes, that is how courts held up in a few things, people. Why am I telling you this? A very beautiful example would be section number 9, income deemed to accrue or arise in India, where you have one of the most idiotic definitions in the whole world called section 917, talks about FTS, fees for technical services. Beautiful definition created by India, people. Definition says fees for technical services means fees paid for technical service. समझ गया मैं? Yes, you and I understood. Masana we understood. Fees for technical service. I'm like, technical service क्या होता है? वो नहीं पता. I have no idea what is a technical service, which means now assessing officer goes and says every single bloody thing you do is technical service. Yes, and it causes troubles, people, because for those who read section 9, you will realize if something gets classified as section number 9 technical service, it is always taxable in India. Yes, which means officer wants to make everything as technical service and he will come and say, boss, everything you do is a technical service, pay tax in India. Because of which foreign people are happy, not happy. Actually not happy. Yes, I have come to points, people, where I was in Deloitte, I was running practices, so many cases pending before me. Yes, case was so beautiful. Case number 1, it happened a case where I had gone and engaged the agent. That agent's job is to do nothing. He will simply go to that country and in that country he will sell my encyclopedia, which means he will go to every door and he'll go to the door and come and say, sir, this is the encyclopedia, would you like to buy? In exchange, I will give him commission. Very simple. This is nothing but a sales commission. This is nothing but a sales commission. Assessing officer pleaded before me saying the guy who's sitting in US and is doing sales commission for you is technically providing a technical service because he is only able to sell with his marketing expertise. Without having marketing expertise, how will he be able to sell it for you? Which means he is providing technical service. You should be paying TDS in India. You should be paying TDS in India. Tell me, logical, not logical? Logical, not logical? People, later on is when Supreme Court passed a judgment and Supreme Court has come and confirmed export commissions are not liable for TDS if it is happening outside India. It was a later on case, but nevertheless, this is what the point is. Situation number 2, isse bhi worst. I was technically running a automobile engineering. Yes. So what happened is I had some customers in UK. So I went to my UK guy and I came and said, I want a warehouse. Why? Store my products. I want to store my products. Rather than me selling the products from India again and again to UK, you keep a warehouse for me there so that I can give you the products and you can sell it off. You can sell it off. Yes or no? Yes. So now I am going to a guy, putting my products in his warehouse and I'm paying him rent, or what we call as warehousing charges. What we call as warehousing charges. Beautiful assessing officer comes and says, boss, the warehousing charges which you have paid to him is technically payment made by you for managerial service because he is managing your goods. Because he is managing your goods. For those who know the definition of FTS, FTS says payment made for technical, managerial and consultancy service. So my officer came and said, you are providing managerial service to him and therefore you should be liable for FTS. मैं बोला, sir, he is keeping my goods, this is rent. He's like, वो सब छोड़, you are providing managerial, मतलब मेरे को TDS चाहिए. मेरे को people क्या करे आदमी? Yes or no? Logical, not logical? Logical, not logical? Absolutely no logic. कुछ भी नहीं है इसमें. Yes or no? Yes. इसमें worst case was this. My CFO of US had one day traveled to India for a meeting. कोई की एक मीटिंग थी तो उसके लिए ट्रैवल किया. Now because obviously people CFO US traveling to India, I will pay his expenses. So I ended up bearing his travel cost. One of the days officer comes and tells me, you are bearing his travel cost. Which means why has the CFO come to India? I was like, कुछ नहीं sir, site visit, road map show. तो वो करते हैं ना world tour. Yes, so some stupidity world tour happened, so he has come for that reason, sir, and therefore he asked, what is he? I'm like, CFO. What is his job? To take opinions on the company, obviously. Yes, so my officer comes and says, boss, Apo, he is a CFO providing you consultancy service, because he is not your CFO, he is the US CFO. So for your company he is providing technical consultancy service, which means this is also FTS. So on the travel cost you have to pay TDS. मैं बोला, sir, travel has not even gone to him, travel has gone to travel agency, Air India को TDS काटू मैं? Yes or no? Do you think I will be going cutting TDS on Air India, on SpiceJet, on this? Makes no sense. Absolutely makes no sense. But that's the beauty of things, people. The beauty of things is FTS is not being defined anywhere, and therefore every single thing is FTS. Here is where courts came and said, boss, it is not defined anywhere, can't do much about it, which means I'll have to find customary practices, which is when they started going and asking people in India, saying, what do you see as a technical service? What according to you means a technical service? Technical service in all practical sense means you should have a specialized skill and knowledge. Some specialized skill and knowledge should be there in your hands. You should not be doing generic activities which anyone can do. And therefore, courts have in various instances held technical service means having a human intervention, doing some specialized skills. Agreed, not agreed? Yes, that is how definitions placement looks like. Does that make sense to you? Yes or no? Yes, so when you read something, people, you always need to ask, is this understood? Can you understand this word? If yes, amazing. If you can't, then you start looking for definitions in 4 different places. Place number 1, section. Place number 2, section 2. 3rd, General Clauses Act. 4th, dictionaries. And 5, customary practices. Are we making sense? Yes, last theory, and then we start the chapters off. Heading is called definitions. Yes, definitions are of 3 types. Definitions are of 3 types. People, the types of definitions we learned last class: inclusive, exclusive, exhaustive. Very good. Definitions are of 3 types. Under that, inclusive hyphen. People, we generally put the inclusive definition to keep the scope limited or expand the scope. We use the word includes. Includes means everything else can also be taken. So this is a wider scope. Yes, inclusive hyphen, to widen the scope. Inclusive hyphen, to widen the scope. Full stop. Starts with the word. Very good. Full stop. Starts with the word includes. Next one. Exclusive hyphen. People, why do you use an exclusive definition? To remove generic items, specific items. Exclusive hyphen, to remove specific items. Exclusive hyphen, to remove specific items. Full stop. Starts with excludes. Starts with excludes. Last one is called exhaustive. People, when do you use exhaustive definition? When you want to expand your scope, or you want to keep it very specific. Exhaustive hyphen, defined scope. Exhaustive hyphen, defined scope. People, can I go beyond this? I've told in the scope this is what it is. Can I go beyond it? If I want to go beyond something, I need to use the word. Yes, exhaustive hyphen, defined scope, full stop. Starts with means. Clear? Yes, yes, yes. Now, people, if I have to show you some definitions, if I have to quickly show you some definitions, there are some definitions which will be a combination of everything. Yes, if I have to show you section 225A, what is 225? Any guesses? No? 225A talks about what is India. Yes, section 225A talks about what do you mean by India. So, if I have to show you 225A, let me, yes, look at India. People, look at the word, it says India means, which means India is a exhaustive definition, but at some point of time you'll need this. It says India means the territory of India as referred in Article 1 of the Constitution, its territorial waters exactly, etc., etc., etc. Acha, nahi, sorry. Sorry, not India. Next one. Look at 226. 226 says Indian company means matlab exhaustive. But if you read, it says means a company formed and registered under Companies Act, and which means now this is it's a combination question. It's a combination question where I have first defined a specific scope, and after which I have widened it off. Which means sometimes in a definition, people, you can also have combinations. You can have combinations where it can start with exhaustive and go to a widening, or it can start with exhaustive and go excluding also, where I can say family means these many people, however it excludes this person. Yes, so that can also definitely happen. Are we making sense? Yes, so definitions porthorizum, people, you don't have a set rule. It's not like it will always be exhaustive, it will always be inclusive. It can sometimes be combinations also. Yes, the point is, when does someone use both as a combination? It's very simple. When I want to deem something. If you notice, Indian company meaning there I have defined it off as a company registered under Companies Act. So to this extent, I am saying if you are a company under Companies Act, you are an Indian company. But the moment I started using the word includes, I now said includes a company formed and registered under any other law relating to Jammu and Kashmir. Now, traditionally, people, if a company is under Jammu and Kashmir, is it an Indian company? No. Traditionally, I am saying. Is it an Indian company? No, it was not an Indian company. But when I started using the word includes, I have now brought that into Indian company, which means I am assuming that to be an Indian company, or in simple words, I am deeming it to be an Indian company. So when does a person use a combination, people? They use a combination when they are talking about deeming fictions. They're talking about deeming fictions. Are we making sense? In its own sense, if you ask me, definition itself having the word includes is a deeming fiction. Because the moment I used includes, I am trying to add additional things. Yes or no? Yes. One beautiful example which I can think of is section 222. Definition of dividends. If you understand, dividends you and I have both learned in Companies Act. And Companies Act says dividend means any money which is paid to the shareholders out of profits of the company, where Companies Act specifically says you can only pay it in cash. You cannot pay it in kind. Yes, but here is income tax taking a detour. 222A first line itself comes and says any money paid by assets is also called as dividends, which means now I am bringing in a deeming fiction, which is why I start with the word includes. Are we making sense? Yes. Last topic for you to write, people. Definitions are placed as follows. Definitions are placed as follows. Point number 1. Where do you first place it? In a section. Point number 1. In a section. People, I have placed a definition in a section. It will apply only to hyphen, applies only to that section. Applies only to that section. Yes. Next, where will I place it? Section 2. Go forward. Section 2. If I place a definition section 2, it applies to whole act. Can it go beyond this act? Cannot go beyond this act. Yes. Point 3. Point 3. मैं भी लिखूंगा. Point 3. General. Very good. Go forward. General Clauses Act. A applies to whole of India. The problem with saying any act is, people, I cannot go and apply this on a UK law. Yes, so it is applying to the whole of India. Applies to the whole of India. Yes, if it is not in General Clauses Act, law dictionaries. Law dictionaries. Hey, that is also not there. Go for customary practices. Go for customary practices. Go for customary practices. Are we clear? Yes, yes. Amazing. This is me marking the end on all introductions. Yes. Now, to be very honest to you, ये सब चीजें तुम्हें आनी चाहिए थी. Yes, these are things you should have already known at your inter level. But like I told people, I don't trust you so much. Yes, I know the kind of preparations you have been going through. So this was my approach for the last 3 days, just to give you an hindsight on what you have missed out. Yes, now is when we are going to start on the technical piece. Are we clear? Yes, people, any doubts on this part? आना नहीं चाहिए, but ठीक है. सब clear? सब clear? कुछ नया समझा? Learn something new for the day? Yes, that is already good enough for me. Yes, this is going to be a starting point for you to understand how to read an act going forward. Yes, so my small request going forward to all of you people, yes, for an exam atmosphere, you are supposed to rely on a faculty's book, no doubts about it. But when you're doing things on a practical level, do not go and do Google or Chat GPTs. Always read an act. Yes, and reading of an act gives you a different perspective altogether. When a manager or a boss comes and asks you to do a query, it is not relevant if you go to Google, people. The problem with Google, at least for income taxes, every bloody person has a different of opinion. Yes, every single person will come and tell you different things. Either there is this one worst place called as Quora. You end up in that place and every single thing is right. Yes, one person will shout on something else, other person will shout on something else. You can never find a right answer there. Yes, and unfortunately, as a consultant, you cannot go to your client and come and say, sir, Quora mein dekha tha, ye bhi correct hai, dono kar lo. Yes, the statement like that automatically means exit of the client only. Yes or no? Yes, so it's always required, people, that you form your own opinions. You may be wrong, there is no difference on that, but at the end of the day, when you read a section and you make your own opinion, at least you will have the confidence that tomorrow when an officer asks, you can tell him that, sir, this is how I read the law, this is how my understanding is. Yes, I may be wrong, but if my understanding is clear to you also, you at least cannot levy me penalty on this case. Yes, this is you proving genuinity. And that's how a whole difference comes. You will not be able to at any point of time go to assessing officer and say, sir, Google mein article padha tha, article mein likha hua hai. Yes, showing him an article, he will throw you out, right? So which means your defense line is very simple if you can make it clear. Are we making sense? Yes, this is one small approach I make in my practical orientation, people, because when I go to an assessing officer, I don't much rely on others' informations. I only rely on two things. One, my guts. Second, case laws. If there are case laws, I will definitely have to rely on that because I cannot form an opinion that way. But if there are no case laws, I will make my own opinions on the facts. And the reason is very simple. When I go to an assessing officer, I should be able to tell him that, sir, this is what I read. And between you and me, I am able to explain it this way. If you are comfortable, you are comfortable. Let's proceed on it. If you are not comfortable, make a disallowance. I don't mind. At least I will go to an appeal. At least I'll go to an appeal and I'll be able to get an answer on this. It's not a problem. But at any point of time, you do not have the rights to levy penalty because the mistake is not on my side. The mistake is on your side. Your drafting is poor. It's not my drafting. It's not my drafting. Are we clear? Yes. One of the beautiful examples I'll give you, people, when we go to chapter 6A, a chapter section called as 80JJAA. 80JJA, one of the most worst sections to be implemented of. Yes, one of the most easiest things from an exam perspective. There is nothing in an exam perspective. They'll give you one table and you have to just find the answer there. But on a practical orientation, this is one of the most difficult topics in the whole of Income Tax Act because the section is so pathetically drafted that you don't have an answer on anything. Yes, in that section, you will be given this as homework. You will be reading the whole section and coming before me. You will give me your insights on the section. I will ask you questions and we will try to understand if you were able to figure it out from your end. Yes, that is how complicated that section is, people. So we're going to do it together as an enjoyment activity because that was my first assignment. When I joined Deloitte as an article, when I joined in October 2016, October 2016, 1st October, if I remember this properly. 1st October 2016, I enter my office. My manager comes to and tells me, Rahul, I'm giving you a company, 80JJAA, 35,000 employees. Kar do jao. I'm like, kya karna hai pehle, ye to batao. Yes. So she comes to me and she's like, 35,000 employees, prepare the statement, give me the answer. And I read the section first and I'm like, what the hell is written here? Karna kya hai yahan pe? Yes. I remember that year we did not file the certificate itself. Because I went to my ma'am and I was like, ma'am, no idea what we have to do. Yes, absolutely no idea. If you want, I will rely on your last year's file and I'll prepare it off and give it to you. But honestly, if you come and ask me, I will tell you the whole file is wrong. Yes, and I gave this open statement to my manager. I went and told her, ma'am, your statement file is completely wrong. I will need time on this. After the filing season got over, I spent 6 months on that computation just to understand what is going and happening. Next return, I went and I changed the whole statement off. I went to my manager and I was like, ma'am, this is how I'm going to do it. This is how my justification on this is. If you're comfortable, let's proceed. If you're not comfortable, you do it on your own. I am not going to do it because I'm not satisfied on the computation you're doing. We then had a huge discussion in Deloitte at an Chennai level. A whole training was called off on Chennai level just to discuss on what are the positions taken. And out of all the positions, most of the positions got accepted off. Yes, that's when we ended up creating a whole memo in Chennai confirming on how 80JJAA should be done in the whole of Deloitte. Right? So that is how complicated the section was for me as a first year of experience. And that is the first assignment I took up as an article. Yes, so very close to my heart and very favored of. I will show you the kind of complications you can get into that section when we go to that topic of. Yes, it's going to be a fun activity for me. Definitely for me. Yes, I've already done it for my level, so I know what is happening on that. Yes, but you're going to have real fun when you start reading it on a level also. Yes, so I'm giving you already a thought, people. You're going to read the sections going forward and understand how to read things out. Yes, yes, yes. Amazing. With this, we're done with all the basics, people, and let's start the sections off. Now, I've already given you a very good hindsight on all the law looks like. Yes, we started with understanding what do you mean by laws. We understood what is a tax, and we moved on to what we call as direct tax. As a part of your syllabus, I'm going to be spending major time on an act called as Income Tax Act 1961, where we started discussing a few things. First, we discussed section number 1, which talked about the nature, title, extent and commencement. We told section number 2 we will discuss as we proceed forward, and then we moved on to section number 4, which was your charging section. Yes or no? Yes, we're going to spend time on the charging section, people. Let's see if you understand the charging section first of all. If I go back to your concept guides, your charging section is going to be in page number 5. Your charging section is going to be in page number 5. Yes, so we're going to read the charging section together, people. I have a very simple way of how I take a class. Whenever I take you something from the book, I will read the lines for you, and then I'll ask you a very simple question. Tell me, which of the words do you want me to explain? Yes, the words which you ask me to explain, I will explain. The words which you don't ask me to explain, I will assume you already know. Yes, and if you tell me that you already know, it's going to be a nightmare. Yes, so I give you this open forum, people, to tell me what you don't know. I'm completely fine with that, and we'll take it forward from there. Are we clear? Yes, you're going to read the section along with me, people. We're reading section number 4, charge of income tax. On the single voice, people, what does the word says? Read it out for me. Income tax shall be charged on the total income earned by a person during the previous year at the rates in force and shall be assessable in the assessment year. Very good. A simple 2-liner, people, but so much power in this one thing because it covers the whole scope of your Income Tax Act. Yes, it says a income tax will be levied on the total income which is earned by a person at the rates in force and shall be assessable in the assessment year. That is what the simple 2 lines come and say. Yes, now forget my markings. Rahul, आपने मार्क किया मतलब ये सारी चीजें समझा दो? No, marking is for my reference. What you did not understand is my question. क्या क्या मैं समझाना? Quickly, tell me items which I have to explain of. सब समझ में आ गया? Understood everything? कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है कहीं पे भी? कोई चैलेंज नहीं है? सब समझ में आ गया? Okay, I'm going to take an assumption that everything is understood then, people. Shall I? तुम्हारा घाटा. चलो, people, you have understood everything, so I'm now going to ask questions. My questions are very simple. People, first thing which you have learned is you have understood that there is something called income tax which has to be levied. We know what is income tax. Yes, we talk about it should be earned by a person. Person definition means? Person definition means I have individual, HUF, AOP, BOI, companies, firms, trust. Trust is not a person. Artificial juridical person. One more. One more. No. One more. People we discussed: individuals, HUF, firm, companies, AOP, BOI, AJP. Missing one. Missing one. No, trust is not a person. Trust is not a person. People, this is a central law. This is a central law. So to a central, state will also pay tax. To the central, state will also pay tax. Income tax definition also has someone called local authorities. Municipality is also liable for taxes in India. Yes. So we have that as a person definition. Clear? Yes. Yes. Now I'm assuming you already know these persons. So I don't have to ask you on things, but nevertheless, I'm going to simply give you some examples. You tell me whether it is what kind of a person. Yes. Example number one. I have that movie called as Mr. Robot and the Rajnikant movie. Yes. In that Rajnikant movie, if you know people, the robot, the Rajnikant robot, yes, he's going to different places and he's making some incomes out of it. People are giving him money. People are giving him money. So Mr. Endiran or robot, whoever you call it, has earned money. Has earned money. Tell me, robot is a person. If yes, under what? No. Why? Apo, whatever robot has earned is not taxable. Quickly, wasting time. Why? Clubbing of income, huh? Part of the business. எங்க படிச்ச கிளப்பிங் ஆஃப் இன்கம்லையா? அப்புறம் ரோபோட்டோட வந்தது இன்கமா? Robo is an asset. That's not the question. Robo is going and earning income. This is what the question is actually. My question is very simple, people. When you go and run a factory, in a factory, are you making the products or the machine making the products? The machine is making the products. So my question is very simple. Should the machine be paying tax or should you be paying tax? Why? Why? You are operating it. It doesn't have an artificial intelligence. Adanala. What if I introduce AI then? Ownership is important. Where is it given? I thought person is inclusive definition. रेवेन्यू डेफिनेशन आप पढ़ क्या? ये तो सब पता है बोल रहे थे. No. Question number 2. मेरे को नहीं पता आंसर. Question number 2. तुमने पूछा नहीं, मैं नहीं बताऊंगा. Yes. Question number 2. People, imagine you have gone for this dog show. Seen the dog shows? Yes. In the dog show, you have taken your dog and the dog has played some stunts and all. Yes. Because of which your dog has won that best dog award. Yes. And therefore, they have promised you a pedigree for 1 year plus 1 lakh rupee. Plus 1 lakh rupee. Tell me who earned the 1 lakh rupee? Panadu kashtam undana. Tell me this 1 lakh rupee is taxable for whom? See, if I think about it, the dog only did the efforts. Your job was only to take him and go. I trained the dog. Okay. Example number 3, people. Imagine a case where what has happened is you have a kid, a very small kid, 6 months old kid. Yes. And there is a beauty contest going on. Yes. Beauty contest about which baby is the cutest. Yes. So some 5-6 baby have gone for contestant and one of your babies have become your baby. Your baby has your baby has been selected as the cutest baby of this sector. Yes. Because of which you have received 1 lakh rupee as a gift card. You receive 1 lakh rupees as a gift card. You put no efforts other than creating the baby. Yes, absolutely no effort from your side other than creating the baby. Tell me this 1 lakh rupee which is earned by the baby because he is cute. Taxable for. That is because of clubbing rules. That is not my question. My question is baby a person? You may have taxed it as a part of the clubbing rules. My question is baby a person? Is dog a person? क्यों भाई? Last I checked, you say every boy are animal. Every time I hear everyone says every man are dog only. So animal is a problem, is it? नहीं पता. Record नहीं पता. Yes. I don't know what the answer is. You're gonna figure it out. It's inclusive definition. Why do you have to define it? If it was a means definition, I would have accepted your thought. That's the power of definitions, right? Yes, yes. Forget it off. Scenario number 2. People, what has happened is I have many better answer. I'm definitely not giving you answers. Yes. Scenario number 2. Imagine what has happened is me and my friend, summer vacations are going on. I have decided that we are sitting bored at home. So kya kare karke, we decided we'll go and open a lemonade stand. So me and my friend have come together and we opened a lemonade stand. We are outside the house selling lemonades. Yes, we made about 1 crore ka business. 1 crore ka business. I have not done any partnership deed with him. Nothing I have done. No partnership deed has happened here. Yes, the 1 crore rupees which has been earned, which has been taxable for individually. Matlab 50-50. How does it matter? I can open a new bank account, friend and friend co. How does bank account be relevant? And plus at the same time, it's a lemonade people. I'm not getting bank cash. I'm getting cash. கையில காசு குத்துன்னு இருக்காங்க. 1 crore not taxable. क्यों भाई? गायब? This is literally wrong and wrong only. கையில காசு வந்துச்சு எதுக்கு டாக்ஸ் பண்ண கேக்குறாரு? மார்வாடிடா வேற ஒண்ணும் இல்ல. Yes, people 1 crore received by Rahul and his friend together in a bank account. உனக்கு வேணும்னா bank account, friend and friend co சொல்லிட்டு ஒரு bank account create பண்ணிட்டேன். Tell me. Partners, I'm not a partner. I'm not created a partnership deed. We have not even agreed on a partnership sharing profit ratio. तो SBI में डाल के कोई नाम डाल दे क्या दिक्कत है? SBI में जा तो कुछ भी कर देंगे वो लोग तेरे लिए. You don't need a PAN card to create a bank account. Maybe nowadays you need it. Maybe nowadays you need it. I'm talking about 1961. Association of persons. BOI or MRT, yeah. So it's a BOI. But last I checked, okay, I don't know. I'm thinking, as per my understanding of BOI, BOI is basically an body which is created by a force of law. Na padchad at least. That is what I understood. You people already know, so maybe you are better understanding here. I don't know. मेरे को नहीं पता. जितना I have read, BOI means a body of individuals where you are creating by a force of law. Is there a force of law here? I don't think this is lemonade stand of force of law. No. बैंक अकाउंट में गया नहीं, पैसा हाथ में आया, कैश. 1 crore is my revenue. No, but you're going to tax revenue or income? अरे expense तो फिर कैसे होगा? Expense तो we would have jointly incurred, no? क्या? पहले tax ले लो फिर decide करेंगे. It's basically AOP then. That is how you will read it then. If you're going to first tax it and then distribute it off, that's an AOP model. See, if 1 crore you're going to split between the two, my question is in expenses, I would have incurred differently, he would have incurred differently, right? Why would I do that? It's a lemonade stand. Do you think I'm going to put accounts and all for it? See, कुछ नहीं करते हम लोग. माँ गोवा के ट्रिप में जाके क्या बिल बना रहा है तू? People, when we go for very simple example, people, boys are going for a trip. You think boys will keep an account of whatever expenses they've made? तो आज भाई पार्टी देगा करके स्टेटमेंट एक ही है. So you just have to make that statement और कोई टेंशन नहीं है. So you don't keep that accounts. I understand. Yes, you're trying to be materialistically active, but that's something which girls do, boys don't. पैसा तो मेरे को चाहिए. My question is, मेरे पैसे के पहले income tax is asking for money. Income tax को कितना देना is the question mark now. Yes, yes. मेरे को नहीं पता. These are my questions to you. तुम्हें पता तो पता, नहीं पता तो नहीं पता. I don't know the answer. Yes. Anyway, person's definition is what the answer is. Moving on forward, people. Next में क्या है? During the previous year. Now, I think you and I both understand this. Previous year basically means the year in which you earn the income. My question is very simple. Previous year works on what model? People, what is my previous year for this exam? What is my PY for this exam? Which exam are you writing? Your PY is, अरे बाप रे, 25? Book में लिखा है. Your PY is 25, 26. Can you give me on date format, people? What is your PY? 1st April 25 to 31st March 26. This is what your PY in date format is. Yes. Now I'm going to ask you some specific questions. You're going to give me the answer in date formats. Yes. My company was incorporated on आज का date 26th September 2025. Tell me my previous year. My previous year is 26/9/25 से लेके 31st March 26. Very good. Everyone agrees? किसी को objection? नहीं? Yes. My company was incorporated on 1st February 26. Previous year. 1st February 20. Sorry. Let me keep it in your previous year. हाँ, correct है ना? करेक्ट है, पिछले साल ज़्यादा आएगा. हाँ करेक्ट है. सॉरी. यस, 1st February to 31st March 20. कोई ऑब्जेक्शन? पीपल, आई रिमेंबर रीडिंग कंपनीज एक्ट, and Companies Act comes and says if a company is incorporated after 1st January, last 3 months left, you will amalgamate it along with the next financial year. Amalgamate it along with the next financial year. Tell me, will that apply here? Why? Very good. The same thing, people. The financial year definition of Companies Act only applies to that act. It does not apply to Income Tax Act. I have no bearing on it, which means for income tax purposes, my financial year remains the same. Now, this is my warning to you people. When a company gets incorporated after January, your statutory accounts are never going to be prepared for March, because you're only going to prepare the statutory accounts for the next year, which means current year you will have no audit applicable. Does that absolve you from not filing a return in India? No, you will still have to prepare a dummy accounts, not dummy, but maybe a provisional accounts for Feb to March, and you will have to file the income tax return for the current year. At the same time, next year when the start books are prepared, you will have to prepare a provisional accounts only for those 12 months, in order to complete your tax computations. Are we making sense? Yes. Now my question is very simple, people. I have been working from Feb to March. I have no start audit requirements. My turnover is also less than 1 crore. Tell me my due date of return filing. Thirtieth September. அது என்னது? என்னத்துக்கு? 30th September. 30th September tax audit due date இல்ல? 31st October. People, I have 3 due dates. 31st July, 31st October, 30th November for transfer pricing cases. Yes. Now, understand, last I checked, people used to tell me if it's an audit case, it is 31st October. If it's not an audit case, it is 31st July. And if it's a TP case, it's 30th November. Now, I am a company which is not liable to get audited in the current financial year because it is passed on to next year. I am not liable for tax audit also, which means technically for me, no audit is applicable. Tell me, am I 31st July or 31st October? Has it been decided that 31st October is the due date for filing return, or is it based on the audit conditions? But I'm not liable for audit, right? Why did you give me 31st October? Because I need time to make my audit, and I don't have an audit. And the moment problem, what happens now, people, is on 31st October, when you file your income tax return, they will ask you, are you liable for tax audit? If you say yes, then they will keep the due date as it is. The moment you say no, what will happen? They will say your due date becomes 31st July, they levy 234F, which is your... My question is very simple. Will you be levied late filing fee? कभी ट्राई किया है? Today's homework, people. Yes, perfect. Sorry. So yeah, let me answer the question since you've already given me the answer on this. A company, despite the fact that it is not liable for audits, would still have a mandatory due date of only 31st October, would not be treated as 31st July. Yes, I think, now I'm not sure, but I think recently the utilities have been updated off and the utilities will not levy a 234F to you. But in the past, at least when I was making the filings, they were levying a 234F penalties on it because they were assuming that if you're an audit case, it is 31st October, whereas if you're not an audit case, it is 31st July. Now, my question is very simple. In the past, when they were levying 234F, tell me, is they legally right? Can you object? Will they give it back to you? Will they give it back to you? Answer is yes. Again comes the same fact. Understand, utility is prepared by who? CBDT. Act clearly comes and says 31st October is the due date, which means a rule cannot override an act. That gives you the powers to come and object to this and come and say, sir, your utility is ultra vires from income tax laws perspective and therefore it is not valid. It is not valid. A perfectly legal argument, people, which you can take forward to the department of. Are we making sense? Yes, perfect. That brings me to last two. If I am on 31st March 26, tell me my previous year. My company was incorporated on 31st March 26. आदमी को चुल और कुछ नहीं. Tell me my due date is. My previous year dates are. First April 26 to 31st March 27. So assessment year becomes 27-28. Yes, which means for this 31st March, you are not having a previous year. Is that accepted? Is that accepted? Yes, I have a very, very simple question. On 31st March 26, I incorporated my company. You have confirmed to me my previous year starts from 1st April. So which means on 31st March, all transactions which Rahul undertakes are not taxable. Is that a yes? Is that a yes? Why would you tax it next year? When did I earn the income? Can you defer incomes like that?
Senior citizen
Yeah. That is only for completion of an annual year. Nothing to do with this. My question is very simple, people. I've incorporated on 31st March and Rahul has earned some money on 31st March. You are telling me my previous year starts from 1st April, which means can I take a position saying I have earned something which is not even in the previous year? And you can only tax something which is earned in the previous year. It is not earned in the previous year, I will not be taxable for it. Is that a valid statement? Is that a valid statement? Appa, tell me what is my previous year. My previous year is 31st March 26 to 31st March 26. No matter how stupid this looks, this is the right answer. This is the right answer because you may be thinking this on a date perspective. What you're failing to realize is you can look at it at a time perspective as well. You can look at it as a time perspective as well, which means I can simply come and say I was incorporated on 31st March 26 at 12 a.m. and I am closing my year on 31st March 26 at 11:59 p.m. Still holds validity. Yes, at the end of the day, an assessing officer is never going to lose his income just because of a technical glitch. He will still accept this one full day as a complete year. Yes, yes. Now my question is very simple. This is your previous year, which I accept. Tell me what is my assessment year? Date format. My date format assessment years are 1st April 26 to 31st March 20. Very good. Next one. Same. Next one. One thing is very clear. Your previous year can be for a period less than or equal to 12 months. But an assessment year is always going to stick at 12 months. It's never going to change. It's never going to change. Is that a valid statement? Yes. Which is why people, when you read the definition of assessment year definition says assessment year means a period of 12 months. Assessment year means a period of 12 months. Whereas previous year says previous year means a financial year in which a person earns income. The moment I use the word financial year, it means I don't even have to stick to 12 months. I can go for a lower period as well. That is what is called as previous year and assessment year. Are we making sense? Any doubts on this part? Good to go. Perfect. So with this, what you have understood is what is called as previous year and assessment year. So I am done with the definition of persons, or you are done with the definition of persons. previous year is done, and assessment year is done. Rates in force in very simple terms means all income tax rates. So whatever we're going to learn in the subsequent chapters of is going to be your rates in force. Before I go forward, have you heard about this word called as MMR? Have you heard about this word called as MMR? Anyone? Maximum marginal rate. What does an MMR mean? Any idea? Has anyone handled any trust filings? Trust filings, anyone? No? AOP filings? Trust filings, AOP filings, anyone? Yes. For those people who are handling trust filings and AOP filings, you would realize that in an income tax return, if you end up declaring an income, you would end up paying tax at 42.744. 42.744. 42.744 is nothing but the highest tax rate of India. It's nothing but the highest tax rate of India. How does it come, people? What is the maximum tax rate in India? 30%. Maximum surcharge ends up at 37 and maximum cess ends up at 4. So on the calculator, if you try 30 plus 37 plus 4 without being stupid and applying 30 plus 37 as 67 and realizing the fact that 37 is on 30, 4 is on both, you will end up at a tax rate of 42.744, which is nothing but MMR. MMR in very simple terms has been defined as a maximum rate which is applicable to an individual of an India. Applied to a individual of an India. There is only one problem which I am facing right now. People, if you are opting for default regime 115 BAC, your maximum surcharge is 25%. So a question which has come up before the department and there is still no clarification on it is, when you say MMR, does it change between a person opting for old regime and new regime, or does it remain at 42.744? Is a question mark which has come up. Unfortunately, there is still no clarification on it. Funny thing is, income tax return when you go and you choose default tax regime, they allow surcharge to only be 25. Whereas if you go for old regime, the surcharge remains at 37. For all practical purposes, from exam perspective, from ICI exam perspective, we do not recognize default tax regime. We only recognize 42.744, which means ICI even now recognizes only 42.744. So don't have this objection in exam saying, Rahul, I'm opting for default. Can I take a lower surcharge? Answer is no. You're not permitted to do that. Are we clear? Yes. Which is why, people, if you notice somewhere, I would have put maximum marginal rate. Maximum marginal rate means the highest rate which is applicable to India, which may apply to any individual AOP or BOI. Rates are 30% of your basic tax, 37% of your surcharge with the 4% cess adding to 42.744. Yes, I have not put out any rates of your default tax regime. It does not matter. On an exam front, practically, yes, you can position yourself to claim only 25% surcharge will be perfectly permitted of. Are we clear? Yes, perfect. Now I'm going to leave you with the last discussion on today, people. What we call as total income. What do you mean by total income? Why are you staring? This is something which you have done for your whole interlife. What do you mean by total income? Not the scope of total income. Income, which is your 5 heads. Basically, salaries, house property, PGBP, IFOS, and capital gains. But people, when I add all the 5 heads, what do I get? I get GTI only now. What I get in my hand is GTI, from which I reduce chapter 6A for me to arrive at total income. Yes or no? Yes, this is okay, something which you understood. Now, my question is not total income. What do you mean by whole basis of this whole act? What do you mean by income? Income माने क्या? What do you mean by income? सब कुछ. Everything? Okay. Question, people. Yes, imagine Rahul is running a backdoor shop. Yes, Rahul is running a backdoor shop where Rahul is selling yes, Rahul is selling drugs. Rahul is running a backdoor shop. Rahul is selling drugs. Rahul has been selling drugs and Rahul has been receiving money. Tell me, income, not income? I've never declared it to government. It's an income. It's an income. One step, people. Income means legal or doesn't matter. Income means legal or illegal doesn't matter. All considered income. All considered income. Agreed, not agreed? Yes. Situation number 2. I have gone to a hospital. A person was in need of kidney. I told him I'll give you 1/2 of my kidney in return for 10 crores. In return for 10 crores. I gave him my kidney. He gave me 10 crores. Income. 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 Yes. One of my friend, not me, one of my friend is involved in human trafficking. He's selling humans. He's selling humans to a different country. Income, not income. 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 Yes, I went to KBC. Kaun banega crorepati? Amitabh Bachchan is sitting in front of me and he's like, "Kya karenge aap itni dhan rasi ka hai?" And I was like, 7 crore. Yes, I got 7 crores by winning the lottery, by winning the KBC show. Income, not income. Income. I went to Big Boss. Big Boss, I played fighting for 60 days. After 60 days, I found a traitor and I've decided to become the winner of the game. Yes, Salman Khan raised my hand, gave me a big trophy along with a car. Income, 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 income. Very good. Kya hua? Yes, situation number, I don't know, 5 or 6. Yes, Valentine's Day is going on. My friend has received an iPhone from another friend as a gift. As a gift. The gift received by my friend from another friend as a mobile phone, Valentine's Day gift. Income. नहीं, मैं नॉर्मली पूछ रहा हूँ. इनकम नॉट एन इनकम. इनकम नॉट एन इनकम. क्यों भाई, क्या प्रॉब्लम है? गिफ्ट इज नॉट एन इनकम. हाँ, पैसा दिया तो. So if money is given, it's an income. If kind is given, it's not an income. Is that the understanding? Income can be in the form of cash or in kind. Yes. Now tell me, income, not income. 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 Effort. Relationship maintain करके चल रहा है ना. You don't need to put efforts for everything. कोई चीज़ अपने भी आ जाती है. Yes, we will. Situation, I don't know what it is. I was walking on the road and I suddenly saw one big building. I was like, if this is a big building, definitely wealthy person. One of the days I saw no one is there in the house. I jumped into the fence, went into his building, took over some statues and brought it back to my home. Basically, got money from stealing. Income. Sure. Rahul is walking on the road. On the road, suddenly he finds a 500 rupees note. He slides, he takes off the 500 rupees note, puts it in his pocket. Who's giving you this money? Effort. रिस्क क्या है इसमें? देख लिया तो वापस कर देना. Income, not income. Income. Okay, people, I'm making payment to you. The moment I made payment to you, GPay came and he gave me that orange color thing called as scratch card. Yes, I know you and my luck. Every time we swipe, it will say better luck next time. 3 भी आ जाए बहुत बड़ी बात है. Yes, उस दिन तो मैं पार्टी दूंगा. Yes, for the last 5 years, I've been trying people. Initially, when GPay came, everyone was getting money. After that 1 year, every time he gives scratch card, it is better luck next time. It is like insult on the face. He's like, क्या केरी किस्मत वैसे थे. Yes. Now, last 5 years, I've never been receiving a single rupees scratch card. But assuming one of the days, out of the blue, some bug in the GPay software, and I received 1 lakh rupees as cashback. Sure. Isn't this net of expense? I paid something from my pocket because of which I got 1 lakh back. Isn't this a net of expense? How is it an income? How does that matter? So the difference is the income, no then? It's a reduction of expense. How is it an income? How? So question to you is like this. Imagine if I buy a machinery and on that machinery government gives me a grant. What do you do with the grant? You call it an income or net of expense? ये भी तो गिफ्ट ही है. बात तो वही है. तेरी तरफ से क्या एफर्ट आया ग्रांट के लिए? You are technically. Why would you do it from GPay then? I mean, see, a greedy person would try it. Whether he gets it or not is a different conversation. I could have done it from my own UPI account also. No, Kotak UPI account also I could have used. I would have not got anything. I'm purposely doing from GPay with the luck that, okay, I know it will not happen, but kahin na kahin chamak jayega. You never know. Income, not income. Still income. Still income. Yes or no? Yes or no? Okay. Question. Last. People, I am running this drug business. Yes, I have sold for 1 crore. I have sold for 1 crore. One of the days, what happened? Police officer caught me, and therefore he was very pissed off. Yes, something like Akshay Kumar kind of a guy. He came to my factory, literally burnt everything off. He made the whole powder into ashes. He made the whole powder into ashes. Everything has been burnt off. I have totally made a loss of 5 crores. Whereas I sold only 1 crore worth of products. Rahul sold 1 crore worth of products, made a loss of 5 crores. Tell me, is the 1 crore still an income? Tell me, is the 1 crore still an income? Yes? Can I declare the 5 crores as an expense? क्यों? पकड़ लिया ना? Can I declare the 5 crores as a loss? People, here is my question to you, very simple. When you say income, do you mean revenue or do you mean revenue minus expenses? You understand my question? My question is, when you talk about the word income, do you mean income as revenue or do you mean revenue minus expenses? You take income as revenue minus, correct? Yes, beautiful. Here is where the case law came into picture, people. The same example which I gave you, a Qureshi case law, people, where what happened is in 1990s or 1980s, basically there was a guy who was selling drugs. Yes, unfortunately what happened is when he was selling his drugs, one of the days the police officers caught him and therefore the whole factory caught fire. Because of the whole factory getting caught fire, he was put into jail, obviously. Yes, during his jail visit, assessing officer visited him and told him, you have sold products worth 1 crore on which you are liable to pay me tax because you have never done it in the past. It's a black money transaction. He said, sir, I agree. I don't deny on the fact 1 crore is what is my expense. I have no objections on this. But because your officer has burnt out my factory, I have made a 5 crores ka loss, which means my income is net minus 4. My income is net minus 4. People, if 1 crore is my income, I would have paid you tax. Because 4 crores is my loss, you have to pay me tax. You have to pay me tax. Now you may say, Rahul, why would income tax department pay you tax? Yes, obviously they're not going to do it, but now this becomes a loss, which means I can set off with my other incomes. And the moment I do set off, it is as good as me saying I'll get a refund. This is what you learned in financial management as a tax shield. Yes or no? My question is very simple. This is a case which traveled to the courts. This is a case which traveled to the courts where the assessee came and said, sir, I've made a 4 crores worth of loss. I need a refund. I need a refund. Tell me who won the case. Tell me who won the case. Why? Because you made that same mistake. The law, if you read, says income is revenue minus expenses. The moment you said the income is revenue minus expenses, CBDT ended up making a loss, a huge loss of 4 crores, which means CBDT ended up paying refund back. Here is where the government of that year realized they made a horrible mistake of saying income means revenue minus expenses. And that's when a clarification came in where they said, going forward, income is not revenue minus expenses. Going forward, income is revenue minus allowable expenses. So right now, as you read income tax as a definition, people, definition says income as revenue minus allowable expenses. Now, what does this allowable mean, people? After this case law came into picture, was introduced something called Section 115 BBE. Section 115 BBE is nothing but the tax on unexplained income, and this section of tax of 115 BBE came and clarified saying you will now on your illegal incomes pay tax at the rate of 78% net effective, 78% net effective without claiming any expenses. Without claiming any expenses, which means in the subsequent years, everyone who did illegal incomes did not get their expenses back. They ended up paying tax on the whole thing. Are we making sense? Yes. Now you have to understand this one thing carefully. Me and you discussing right now what is an income and what is not an income is of no relevance, because you and I can debate about saying something is an income and something is not an income. At the end of the day, the deciding factor is is the act. Yes, which is why one thing you have to understand, people, is when it comes to between you and me, we don't care what is an income. You may tell gift is not an income. It all depends on what income tax says, which means there is no point of you and me discussing generic examples. And therefore, income tax came up with a section called section 222. The charging section of income is section 222, which defines what do you mean by income in the whole Income Tax Act. Which defines what do you mean by income in the whole Income Tax Act. And here is the funny thing. When 222 was defined, 222 like income tax did not even define expenses. They only defined revenues. So as you read the Income Tax Act right now, people, section 222, sorry, not 222, 224, sorry, 224, section 224, which is the definition of income, defines every item as a revenue item, which means this section will only tell what is taxable. This will only tell what is taxable. If you want to claim some deductions, you will have to go back and check other chapters. Which means in income tax, the revenue is defined in 224. Expenses are defined as a part of respective chapters, which means if the chapters does not permit expense, you will not claim it. Are we making sense? Yes. Now, why is this relevant, people? A very simple example if I have to give to you. Imagine you have a fridge. And you decide to sell this fridge off. Normally, people, you have sold a fridge. It is your asset, taxable as CG. Tell me, people, will you pay tax on your personal fridge, home fridge, which you have sold off on OLX? A personal home fridge which you have sold in OLX. Income, not an income. Quickly, income, not an income. It is not an income. Which is what I've been telling you, people. Logically, you may say this is an income. I am talking from 224. 224 has come and clarified, saying movable personal assets are not assets itself, which means anything you do on those are fully exempt. Which is where my question came. When you give an iPhone and a Valentine's Day gift, is it an income? No, not because it is not a gift, because of the fact that it is not even an asset. Phone has been defined as not being part of an asset definition, which means that becomes fully exempt. On the contrary, if this fridge was used by me in my business and now I've sold this asset off, is it an income? Yes, because now it is not a movable personal effect. It is a movable business asset. The moment that happened, it became an asset. Are we making sense? Yes. Which means under income tax, you need to understand 224 defines all revenues. And only when something sits in 224 is it an income. Otherwise, it is not an income. But at any point of time, any expenses which you need to claim are not part of 224. They are part of the respective chapters of 5 heads of income. Along with chapter 6A as a deduction of. Are we making sense? Any doubts on this? Yes. So now we have discussed what is an income. What is an income? Question number 2. Who is taxable for this income? This is what the question is. I'm going to leave you with some case laws, people. Let's see if you understand this case law. Situation is like this. Rahul is working in a company. Where am I? I'm working in a company. So I am Mr. Rahul working in a company. Let's say the company's name is R. As a policy, company has to give me salaries. So company has decided that company is going to give me a salary of rupees 1 crore. Yes, we have decided that the company will give me a salary of 1 crore. People, if the company gives me the salary of 1 crore, this is income, not income. For Rahul. Pay tax, no pay tax. Pay tax. I went back to my company and I said, dear sir, I'm very grateful that you're ready to give me 1 crore, but I'm a very big philanthropist. Yeah. Some big English. What is philanthropist? Persons do good for the society. I went to my company and I said, sir, I will work for your company. Day and night I'll work for your company. I'll work very hard. Every time you plan to give me salary, you don't give it to me. I will recognize another trust. Let's say there is a child trust. Orphanage. Yes, there is a child orphanage. So I went to my company and I said, sir, going forward, whatever salary you are supposed to give me, Instead of giving it to me, directly send it off to a child orphanage, which means now is the company giving me this 1 lakh? Where is the 1 crore going? It's going to the trust. It's going to the trust. Now this fact has come before you. My question is very simple. The 1 crore rupees which was given to the trust, taxable for? Why? Rahul never received it itself.
With respect of the fact that it is or not.
Taxable for? Everyone agrees? Yes, people, despite the fact that I'm sending off this money to the trust, it will still be taxable for Rahul. Agreed. Any doubts? No doubts? Clear. This second example I'm going to give you, people. Example is like this. Imagine there was a father. Imagine there was a father. Father was having a 5 acres land. 5 acres land. Now this father has created a will. In this will, this father has come and said, after I die, my land will be given off to my 4 children. Will be given off to my 4 children, and my children can do whatever they want with the land. No issues with this. No issues with this. There is only one condition to this. The condition is that if the sons are earning any income, the incomes will be divided to 5 people. There are 5. 4 of the children plus 1 of my wife. 4 of the children plus 1 of my wife. So a hidden condition has been put in the will itself, which says what? Any income which is earned from the land will have to be given to 5 people, 4 of the children, 1 of my wife. Equal sharing has to happen. This is how the will has been created. One of the days, father has died. Unfortunately, what happened, people? Because the father died, land has gone to 4 children, which means there is child 1, child 2, child 3, child 4. Or the 4 children decide that they don't want to use the land, and so they instead decide to give it on rent. From this land, the children have received a rent of rupees 1 crore. All the 4 children together have received rupees 1 crore from the land. Yes. Now, as per the condition, people, 1 crore, 20 will go to child 1, 20 will go to child 2, 20 will go to child 3, 20 will go to child 4, and the last 20 will go to wife. My question is very simple. 1 crore was actually received by the 4 children, which means technically in every bank account you would have received 25. Question: how much is taxable for each child? How much is taxable for the wife? $20, and 20 for the wife. 20 for everyone. 25 for the children. Wife gets nothing. Wife matlab unki mother basically. Good. Anyone else? Quickly. I'm already in case laws, people. This is a case law question. 20 for all the children. Very good. Next. 25. Jaldi. 20. 20. Yogi. 20. What is the difference? Okay, I'm seeing majority of 20. Let's conclude with 20. What is the difference between this and that example? Why did in that example you assume that 1 crore will come for Rahul even if he did not receive? And this example you're telling because 20 was received by wife, it is taxable for wife. What is the difference in the both? I can mention it in my salary agreement also. No? I can go and tell my boss that boss 100% will go to the trust, nothing will come to me. What is the problem there? Diversifying. Okay. What is this? What is the difference between both? फर्क क्या पड़ा? 25 ही आएगा. Statement change हो गया. 25 is what is going to come. Okay, 25. Anyone else with 20 still? 20. किसका 20 था? सब बोल गए. Everyone is 25? Is everyone at 25? Can we go forward with that? Very good. Answer is 20. Now, here is what you did not understand. Understand this carefully. People, looking at both the scenarios, you tell me there is one very critical difference. Number 1. If I look at the previous example, who made the decision to give the money? Rahul. Which means when Rahul was going to receive the money, Rahul made that choice. When Rahul was receiving the money, Rahul made that choice that he wants to give this income to someone else. Which means there were 2 ways for Rahul to do this. Way number one. Rahul could have got the 1 crore and given it off to the trust. Way number two. Directly given to the trust. Model remains the same. At the end of the day, money is going to the trust. Which means if you would have taken scenario number one, had Rahul received the money and given to the trust, for Rahul it would have been an income. Giving off to the trust can be ATG, different conversation. But initial stage, Rahul should have received the money. The fact that it did not hit the bank account is relevant, not relevant. Is relevant, not relevant. Not relevant. Agreed. Situation number two. In situation number two, when the child gave the land for rent, during giving the land for rent itself, they were aware. What were they aware? That 20% of this money is never going to come to me. 20% of this money is never going to come to me. Tell me people, did they have a choice? Did they have a choice? Can they ever make that choice that I don't want to give something to my wife, to their mother? Can they do that? Can they do that? No, because they never even had the ownership on this. They never even had the ownership on this, which means if you look at the second example, in the second example, the person earning the income is not making the decision. Hello? Who's earning the income? Children are earning the income. Are they making the choice? Who's making the choice? Father is making the choice. In the first example, who's making the choice? Rahul is making the choice, meaning person earning is making the choice. Agreed, not agreed? Yes. In tax terms, people, we give them very fancy Englishes. English number one for this is called application of income. क्या बोलते हैं? Once again, क्या बोलते हैं? We call it as application of income. Application of income means authority is with me on how to apply the money. Authority is with me on how to apply the money. Agreed? Agreed. Second one is what we call as diversion of income. What we call as diversion of income. Now, what does diversion of income mean, people? When the 20 came to the children itself, they knew it is not eligible. They knew it is not eligible, which means the moment the 20 came itself, they'll have to give it away. They will have to give it away. Can they make a choice? Are they making the choice to apply? This is called diversion of income by overriding title. Diversion of income by overriding title. In income tax, people, two Englishes for you to understand. One is called as application of income. One is called as diversion of income. In application of income, the person earning makes the choice, which is why it is taxable for the same person. Whereas if I am looking at a case where I don't even have a choice, money is directly going away, this is called diversion of income by overriding title, in which case I will not be held responsible. I will not be held responsible. Are we making sense? Are we making sense? Yes. Now I'm going to switch off the examples a little bit more, people. Look at the same example. Rahul and company. Company told Rahul, 1 crore I'll give you. 1 crore I'll give you. I said I will give it off to the trust. This is called application of income. Imagine in the same example, Rahul, when he joined the company itself, the company put it in the agreement. The company put it in the agreement saying, sir, we are a social welfare company. And therefore, there is a small request. Every salary that you earn from the company, 20% of it has to go to a trust. If you're okay, you can join the company. Otherwise, please move away. Please move away. Who made the choice? The company made the choice. In that choice, company has told 20% will go off from you. Which means when I joined the company itself, Rahul knew that I am going to receive the 1 crore or not going to receive 1 crore. I am not going to receive 1 crore. I am only going to receive 80 lakhs. In this case, we will now call the 20% as diversion of income by overriding title, in which case Rahul cannot be taxable for 1 crore. Rahul will be taxable for. Makes sense. Makes sense. Any doubts on this part? Yes, this is your first case law question, people, where they will give you facts and they'll come and tell, boss, this is a scenario. You need to tell me whether I am doing application of income or diversion of income. Any doubts on this part? Yes. Imagine last example. I am going to open a partnership firm. What am I going to open? I'm going to open a partnership firm. In this partnership firm, there are 4 partners. 4 partners have come together and have decided they want to open a partnership firm. Now, when they were opening up the firm itself, the partners together decided that whatever profits which come from this partnership firm, 10% will 101% have to go to a trust. Now, this was a precondition for me to open the firm itself. If I don't accept, can I open the firm? No, which means all partners had to accept the fact that 10% has to go for the trust. Agreed? Agreed? Question. Now, this firm has earned 1 crore rupees. The moment they earned 1 crore rupees, automatically 10 lakhs went off to the trust. Partners have only earned 90 lakhs. Tell me, firm is taxable for. The firm is taxable for. The firm is taxable for. First guy. Firm is taxable for. Firm is taxable for. Firm is taxable for 90 lakhs. Very good. People, if I did not achieve the condition, could I have opened the firm? Which means this was not in my hands. The firm came into existence only because of a precondition. The firm came into existence only because of a precondition, which means firm did not even have a choice. Hey, when you made that condition, was the firm there? Which means who made the choice? Partners made the choice. Partners put the choice that firm will only work when there is 10% given away. Which means in the hands of firm, there is no application. There is diversion of income by overriding title. Agreed? Agreed. People, after the partnership firm was created, partners together decided that every year when we make profits, we will give away 10% to the trust. Tell me, how much is the firm taxable for? Firm is taxable for, because now firm is there, and who's making the choice? Firm is making the choice. Partners representing the firm is making the choice, which means now this has become application of income by overriding title. Agreed? Agreed? Any doubts? Are we making sense? Yes. I'm going to leave you with another homework question for today, people. You would have seen Companies Act. Companies Act has something called CSR. Has something called, which says mandatory 2% of your net profit has to go off for charity. Has to go off for charity. My question is very simple. The 2% which you're giving off to charity, is it an application of income or diversion of income by overriding title? If you meet the threshold, it's a bare minimum, no? Is an application of see, because understand this very carefully. If you tell me this is diversion of income, then technically I am not taxable to that extent. I will treat CSR expenses as an exempt income. You will ignore the expense and you will ignore the income also, no? Then jitna income aa raha usme se to expense kar rahe ho. People, you're making CSR from where? From your profits, which means you will exempt that much amount of profit so that you can ignore the CSR. But last I checked, you people are doing PGBP, disallowance of CSR. You are disallowing your CSR, which means profit is being taxed. CSR is not being claimed. Hello? Yes or no? So, matlab, in your Companies Act, you are taxing the whole profits, not claiming CSR, but rather claiming it as 80G. But now you're telling me this is diversion of income. If you're telling me this is diversion of income, profit was not taxable then. हाँ कि ना? Yes, जाओ research करके आओ. Tell me next class, people, CSR expenses is a application of income or diversion of income by overriding title. Any doubts? Are we clear? Yes, people, law समझ में आ रहा है? Yes, I'm going to complicate things. I'm definitely going to complicate things. This is how things are going to be with you. Yes, next class say we are going to start doing actual problem sums. Yes, from tomorrow's class I'm done, people. ये खत्म करने के बाद I have a small concept of income. Once we do that, we are starting with tax rate computations. My small request, please carry your, वो तो ठीक है, carry your solutions guide. Please carry your solutions guide. You will be doing questions from that also along with me. Yes, people, until I unfortunately get your notebooks ready, carry one small notebook, not much. एक छोटा सा notebook just to solve sums. I will only need that notebook for PGBP. But कल के sum solve करने के लिए खाली एक छोटा book so that you can understand what to solve the questions of. For one few days, people. Yes, 3-4 days, I'll get your book ready. After that, you can start using that book of. I'm sorry until that extent. Yes, तो बस वो खाली कर लेना. I need volume 1 solutions guide and a notebook in your hand for you to do your next classes from tomorrow. Are we clear? Yes, people, सब समझ में आ रहा है? कोई problem in the speed? सब manage हो रहा है? We are going to go at the same pace. At any point of time, speed ज़्यादा लग रही है, कुछ समझ में नहीं आ रहा है. Just keep me informed. I will tune accordingly. Clear? Yes. Yes. Perfect. Thank you, people. Have a good day.